Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Thursday, August 20th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. There will be no Big Ten football this fall. It took 8 days for the Big Ten to get around to providing some specifics on why, but as of last night, Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith released a statement reading in part, quote, "While a decision has been made by the presidents of the Big Ten Conference to postpone the fall season, we view this as a temporary delay, and Dr. Johnson, the new president of Ohio State, has directed us to prepare for the possibility of bringing at least some of our fall sports back to practice and competition by the end of the year. We are actively planning for the winter and spring seasons for all sports, including the return of football." Buckeye Scoop beat writer Tony Gerdeman joins me. And Tony, in the Big Ten statement, let's start with that. First of all, they dropped their press release at 4:58 p.m. Central Time, walking out the door on the day of the deadline from the Ohio State parents. That was a nice touch. That was a classic 5 p.m. news dump. That was good. Outside of that, the other thing that really jumps off the page to me right away was the wording around the vote that, hey, it turns out apparently did happen after all. There apparently was a vote of the Big Ten presidents solving one of the big mysteries of our world this week.
Yeah, congratulations to them for getting that information clearly out to everybody. And now we can all rest our heads easily and go to bed and just rest knowing that the Big Ten did take a vote on whether or not to cancel and that it was unanimous. Is that right, Tom?
No, actually, it turns out it was not unanimous. The wording of the Big Ten's release was they of course did not provide an actual number for that vote, but they said that I'm looking for the exact word here.
Overwhelmingly in support of postponing fall sports and will not be revisited?
Yes. So, yes, the vote of the Big Ten Council of Presidents and Chancellors was overwhelmingly in support of postponing fall sports, will not be revisited. No specifics, though, on numbers, who voted. It's so strange to me. These are all public universities, all funded by tax dollars. These are people who are subject to Freedom of Information Act requests. Like, why are we pretending this is something that needs to be hidden? Why are people not able to be held accountable to their votes? I mean, this seems very much like the kind of thing that if you are a public servant, as all of these people are or outside of Northwestern, all of them are, seems like maybe we could actually find out who voted which way. Does that seem like an outrageous ask?
Yeah, I don't think it is, considering these organizations, these public institutions, all of which, except for what Northwestern, they answer to the people. But when Kevin Warren spoke with Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic Wednesday night, was saying like, well, we don't really need to get into the who voted for what and voted where. And I don't know, is this still America? It feels like it is. It feels like it barely is, but we should still at least let us know what people said. And I'm wondering that, we know like Ohio State was okay with things being postponed. They just didn't want things postponed right now. And I'm sure they weren't the only school that felt like that. So when he says there's an overwhelming support of postponing fall sports, does Ohio State get included with that, knowing that they weren't in favor of postponing them right now? So is this sort of a lie here in his statement about all of this, where yes, Ohio State and other schools would they were, yeah, let's start it in September 26th, not September 5th or whatever. Let's push things back. Let's at least try, but knowing like, postponing right now is the good thing. And Ryan Day even said it, like, at the very least, let's postpone right now. So or not right now, but let's postpone and then move on. Let's not cancel. And for him to, I'm going to assume everybody got lumped into that. And I don't, it doesn't feel so honest to me. And then, you're wondering if you don't have a bunch of schools voting to play, or maybe like if you have 7 that don't want to cancel, that's not enough to stop things from canceling. So then if you can't stop it from canceling, that means we're just going to go ahead and do this. Like, if there's not enough people to stop something, even though maybe there's a majority to keep things going, but if you're not really gung-ho about it, then you don't really have that momentum. And it sure seems like he was never super high on, I think, maybe trying to make this happen. That's the message I've gotten from all of this and talking to various people, that no matter how gung-ho a school may have been, like maybe they were getting shot down by what the direction that he wanted to go, or didn't necessarily want to go against more schools than he already had to. I don't know. And the thing is, we'll never know because the the answers he's given are a lot of words, but he's not saying much, which is also something of a job requirement for, I guess, people in this position.
Yeah, it does not hurt to be able to talk a whole bunch without saying anything of any consequence. That is definitely a skill you got to learn to get to a certain level in the world. Uh, I'm with you that definitely that it sure from no every indication that we have, it did not take a whole lot to convince him that football should not be played this fall and they should cancel immediately. That's from the indications and the leaks that we've gotten. That sure sounds like that's where he was going into this process, and that it did not. He did not have to be talked out of canceling the season, or talked into canceling the season. It sounds like that's kind of where he came in, and the statement, the whole thing with the statement, it just overwhelmingly in support of postponing fall sports. It's phrased in such a way that it's like, yeah, that could mean a couple different things, but it just feels like we are framing this in the way that we want to frame it, and not inviting any further questions. We will not be accepting any further questions on this matter. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that just doesn't sit right. You read a lot of these statements, and you can kind of tell when there's some weasel words in there. That seems pretty much like a like they're telling you what they want you to hear, but not necessarily the whole truth. The other thing that was in the statement was the primary factors behind the decision, and this is something that he was asked 8 days ago on Big Ten Network, and absolutely could not possibly articulate a single one of them other than uncertainty in the world. Can you run through just some of the basics of the whys behind this decision?
Yeah, the first one he mentioned was the transmission rates continue to rise at an alarming rate, with little indication from medical experts that our campuses, community, or country could gain control of the spread of the virus prior to the start of competition. And he has a couple of bullet points behind that. But if this is your concern, I'm not sure opening campuses to students is a great idea. The next one is there's simply too much we do not know about the virus, the recovery from infection and longer-term effects, the heart issues. Again, probably not a great decision to then open campus. There's also concerns surrounding contact tracing, including the inability to social distance in the contact sports. And Tom, we've mentioned this before on various shows. There is still contact outside of contact sports on campuses. And the more people you have in an area, the harder the contact tracing is. So all these three main points, the primary factors that led to this decision, lie in contrast to the fact that campuses are open, soon to be closed for some of them probably, but the fact that they are inviting all of these students onto campuses when these things that they're bringing up are too dangerous for football, but not dangerous enough for school.
That was what just absolutely jumped out at me. It was like, okay, there's sort of some answers. There's sort of some information here, but this is an extremely compelling case. If you believe these 3 bullet points, this is an extremely compelling case for absolutely no Big Ten schools to be open this fall. And guess what? A whole bunch of Big Ten schools are open this fall. Possibly all will be, at least most. And if this is something that absolutely has to keep you off the football field, that has been from the moment this happened and continues to be to this moment the biggest disconnect in my mind. How are you having 30,000 students return to campus with little to no testing and 85 players on a football team is simply a bridge too far and not even worth considering. I can't reconcile that, and I have a feeling that the answer may be because it can't actually be rationally reconciled, and there's a lot of money at stake in having students back on campus. Because the next paragraph is financial considerations did not influence the COPC decision, as the postponement will have enormous and adverse financial implications. They are basically telling you we're not worried about liability. We're just worried about the health and safety of our student athletes. But again, there's a little disconnect. Are they worried about the health and safety of the students? Because presumably this is a a threat to the students. All the things that are threats to student athletes are also threats to them when they are not in the field of competition. Correct? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not wrong on that.
No, you are correct, Tom. We also have to reconcile Kevin Warren's son playing for Mississippi State and being allowed to do so as a family decision. That was, I'm just looking at Twitter right now, as another thing that Nicole Auerbach asked him about. And his answer was, as a family, we've had many difficult discussions regarding this issue, but the decisions we make in the Big Ten Conference, we have to look at from a macro level. We need to focus on what's right for our nearly 10,000 student athletes at 14 institutions. So my question is, like, why couldn't each individual, if the people and the players are so important, why couldn't they each be looked at at a micro level? You know, why do you have to look at a macro level? You can look at your own son on a micro level and say, I think it's safe for you, but why go macro when you have enough eyeballs to determine whether or not each sport, each person can go ahead and play? So yeah, we're going to have to make friends with that, I guess. And you feel bad for his son who has to deal with this. Don't necessarily feel bad for the commissioner who is allowing it. And you know what, as Urban Meyer would say, this is the big leagues. And so there's going to come criticism with it. Jim Delaney got his fair share. Kevin Warren is starting out. If this is like his baseball career, he's basically 0 for 30 in his first 7 or 8 games, and is still looking for maybe just a duck snort over the shortstop or something.
Mm-hmm. Well, perhaps he'll get a little broken bat floater over shortstop in the winter or the spring. The Big Ten is looking at winter and spring models for sports. You know, that it was all phrased in a. I kind of looked at that and thought the way they had it written, it just seemed like, yeah, I mean, you know, we're not ruling that out right now. I mean, it's possible this could maybe, we'll see, but it did not seem overly hopeful, like they're definitely planning on this as an absolute hard and fast yes.
My question is, if they can't do it in August, September, October, November, how are they going to, like, what is going to change in November or in December when camp starts, in January when the games begin? I believe testing will be better and more readily available eventually, and probably pretty soon. I don't know that things change that much. And you just, the cynic in all of us looks at this and probably just feels like it's a carrot being dangled with really no intention, knowing that the Big Ten can spend its time going through all of the planning, really having no intention of playing, because 1, they have to justify their existence. 2, they did that with the fall schedule. They've been planning since March on what to do, planning for all of these protocols on how to play a season in the fall. And guess what? We're in the fall and there is no season. So they can spend months at a time planning for something that never happens. So yes, I'm going to be all in on preparing for winter football, and it's going to be the greatest thing ever, and nothing else is going on, and the Big Ten will be all alone. The Pac-12 is its own thing, and everybody's going to watch Big Ten football. Yay. But until the ball is actually kicked off, I'm still going to be expecting a rug to be pulled out from under us or something of that nature, or Lucy to pull the football away from poor Blake Haubeil on the opening kickoff of the season. So, yeah, I'm hopeful, but I was hopeful all summer long, and here we are.
Yeah, there's definitely, there's a certain amount of hope you can have. I don't know how optimistic I am about the likelihood of a spring season. There's a lot of questions from the health and safety aspect, and that the Big Ten statement addresses that directly. That they have to figure out how many games are safe to play in a calendar year, and in a year that culminates with a Big Ten championship. So it is possible that the answer is no more than they play in the fall, and that's something that they're sort of leaving open there. Gene Smith, he released a statement shortly after the Big Ten statement came out, went out of his way to tell you that they will always be respectful of Big Ten, but there was an interesting sentence in there, the exact quote: Quote, the Ohio State University is confident that we have the safety protocols and rigorous safeguards in place for our student athletes to practice and return to competition immediately. And in that same statement, he talked again, reiterated new president Dr. Christina Johnson was very much in support of the Buckeyes playing this fall. That's Gene Smith's statement. You know, Gene Smith is someone who is never going to go out of his way to make the Big Ten look bad. He doesn't seem like he's someone who is going to go against the grain a lot or push people's buttons. But that sentence, like he wants you to know, even though we're gonna respect this, but we don't like it and we don't agree with it. It's certainly how that reads to me.
Yeah, this was the line that stood out to me the most. There's all kinds of thanking the fans, thanking President Johnson. But I see that, and I even titled our story about it. I think it was at first I titled it Gene Smith's statement, Buckeyes able to play, won't, and just left it at that. And then after a couple minutes, I thought better of it. It's like, well, let's massage some of these words, because then it looks like it's Ohio State's decision not to play, even though, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there saying, why does Ohio State need the Big Ten? But obviously in this statement, there is all kinds of, we love the Big Ten. We're sorry if there's anything said that didn't need to be said. We apologize, and we're all just happy to be together. But yeah, that's the thing that sticks out most is basically we could have played. The Big Ten said no, and we just want people to know that. And is that it's kind of a cop-out as well, that you just throw that little bit in there in your statement, thanking everybody, saying, yeah, we're all about the winner right now. But you throw that in there as a fan service, maybe. I think somewhat, but it's also a nod to your athletes and your coaches and the staff who did everything they could to make this season happen, because it wasn't their fault that there was no season. And I think this is an acknowledgement of everyone doing their jobs properly, and the decision makers who never stepped into any of those halls where those jobs were being done properly. It was a little jab at those people that were never, we don't even know who of these people have left their houses during this entire thing. So yeah, it's a nod to the people who've done it right, with an acknowledgement that the decision makers weren't going to be budged.
One other interesting note in Gene Smith's press release on Wednesday evening, the Big Ten Return to Competition Task Force that's developing plans for winter and spring competition battles. Dr. Christina Johnson, the new president of Ohio State, is on that task force. So does that mean, is that an optimistic sign that Ohio State has been pushing for them to be back on the field as quickly as possible, and now Dr. Johnson is on that task force? Is that, let's give people something to feel optimistic about. Is that an optimistic thing? Does that make it more likely that maybe something happens in the spring?
It's better than not being in the meetings, unless, of course, if this is like a college football committee or a March Madness committee, when they talk about getting ready to play in the winter, does she have to recuse herself because that's what she wants? Like, oh, we're going to talk about the winter plan. Okay, I'll step out. That way I don't provide any bias into this argument. But yeah, I think having her in there giving, because she's not just going to go in there. You would assume she's not just going to go in there with her own thoughts. She's going to seek advice from Gene Smith and all of the coaches in her program who are under her, because it would be foolish to just not seek their counsel on this. And it gives the coaches at least a feeling of input. And right now, the way they have been, I don't know, maybe abandoned almost. And some of these programs all over the country have been completely abandoned. Ohio State, they're trying to remain steadfast and keeping everybody paid and on scholarship. But maybe this gives them the feeling that they will have a voice in this. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. It's better than not being involved at all, as I think we all feel like we've been, this whole summer and heading into the fall.
Well, this may kind of close the book on a fall season, but it does not necessarily close the book on all of the excitement this week. I hear you got a little getaway plan to Chicago. Gonna go see some sights. Gonna go catch a Cubs game. What's going on in Chicago this week, Tony?
No Cubs game. No. We plan on being in Chicago Friday morning for the, I don't even know what to call it, the parents' rally organized by Sean Wade's dad, Randy Wade, at the Big Ten headquarters in Rosemont, Illinois. We'll see how that goes. I've never covered a rally or protest before, so I will be minding my P's and Q's. I'll be masked up. I will be socially distant from everybody, and we'll see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. I've been told, upwards of maybe 150 parents showing up, which I think would be fantastic for what was just going to be one dad out of the blue. So we'll see how that goes. We didn't get a hotel check-in day this year. We've only gotten to stand in one parking lot once this year. So this will fill some of that void of the Ohio State beat. And the other thing I'm wondering, will there be other beat members from other schools there? The Ohio State contingent will always be there. Will there be any Iowa reporters that cover Michigan or Penn State or Purdue? Or is it just going to be the same 7-8 guys that, were hanging out Thursday night waiting for Friday morning to get here?
Yeah, I have a feeling that they maybe should have just held the protest in Columbus, just for the convenience of the media. Just move the Big Ten office to Columbus. That would make everyone's life a lot easier. Well, Tony, thank you for joining us. We will probably check in with you maybe tomorrow. You and your traveling buddy. We may check in with you guys and see what's going on there for tomorrow morning. So. We will, of course, have much more on this week's exciting episode of As the Big Ten Turns at BuckeyeScoop.com. Yes, that planned protest for Chicago is set for tomorrow. We will have coverage of that, as well as all the other twists and turns of this crazy story at Buckeye Scoop. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.